Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
You make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Steady, are you ready? To life, to reality, to life, to reality.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to reality. I am your host, Jarrett Hill, joining you live from Los Angeles in our Hollywood studios here at UBN Radio and TV. I am so excited to have two guests in the studio whom I adore. We got some heavy conversation to have today, but we got some heavy conversation to have.
Let me preface it real quick.
Right.
Don't get too excited.
We've got some heavy conversation to have, but I'm very excited to have Attention's Danielle DeCourcy. How's it going, Danielle?
Very excited to be here. This is very exciting.
We've also got star of Centrix, My Current Situation, and HLN's Dr. Drew. Spirit, how's it going?
Oh, I can't leave out though Ricky Smiley because he'll be mad. Ricky Smiley for real.
Ricky Smiley for real. Also,
hello,
that's
TV1.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Coming up in Hot Topics, I mean, I don't know how we don't talk about North Carolina. There's been so much going on with this police shooting with Terrence Crutcher and Keith Lamont Scott. We're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about Donald Trump and these debates that are coming up and just how things have been looking in the last
he has
week.
said with them Skittles, him and his son.
Don't eat the sun. You know what?
Okay.
I also want to. I want to have a conversation about this Drake song. I've
Please
posted
don't.
about this, but I feel like Drake and this song are. It's called Too Good, and we'll talk about that. All that's coming up in Hot Topics today, and we've also got the Situationship remix, which I'm very excited about.
The Situationship.
The Situationship remix.
Hi.
So I know you're not really used to like love, sex, and relationship conversations.
I know
Spirit,
nothing about it.
but we're gonna
Nothing at all.
we're gonna do a little bit there, but I guess we can get right into these hot topics. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? I was talking to
Is
y'all.
it hot?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, do I need a towel? Do I need some water? You said, "Are you ready?" And I had to think about if I was ready.
Do I need to stretch?
We should probably stretch because
Okay.
this one might be a little bit difficult.
See, I don't need to stretch, Jared, because if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Play the damn music.
I'm wrecked.
Well, I hope you're ready.
I'm wrecked.
Because this past week it's been ugly, to be honest with you. This has been another one of those times where we've seen back-to-back days of black men being killed by police officers, and we've seen this uprising happening in Charlotte. We've seen prayer vigils, I believe, that happened in Tulsa, and we keep coming back to this conversation about what is happening in this country. I was saying to Danielle in the green room, like, there's always this conversation that's like, oh, this is so shocking. How could this happen? And it's like, this isn't shocking.
Is that still the
Right.
conversation?
This isn't shocking. I mean, it's not people of color that are saying that, but let me give the full context for people that don't
Please,
understand.
wow.
In North Carolina, Keith Lamont Scott was sitting in his vehicle, and correct me if I miss anything here, Danielle. He was sitting in his vehicle waiting to pick up his child from school.
Reading a book.
And police approached his vehicle saying that they believed he had a weapon. He was in a truck. He gets out of the vehicle, allegedly had his hands raised, and was shot 4 times.
Oh, but you're leaving out the best part of this here,
Which
is
is?
that they weren't looking for him.
They were not
They
looking
were
for
in
him.
the apartment complex looking for someone else.
Right.
Found him, and now he is dead. Terrence Crutcher's story is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he was again, these are allegedly, we'll say, because we don't know all of the details as they continue to come out and change, but his vehicle had broken down. He was in the middle of the road. Police approached him. There's a video. There are 2 videos, actually. One that is a helicopter, which we can get into why there's even a helicopter at the situation. But he was outside. His hands were raised. He's, being approached by 1 officer and then 2. I believe there were like 5 to 7 officers.
5 when it was all said and
Yeah. He has his hands up. He was moving back toward his vehicle. There's a gang of officers. They tase him, then shoot him. He is then dead. And the problematic question that I've been asking myself and afraid of the answer is, what is it going to take for something to change?
Why are you afraid of the answer?
My fear is that it's going to have to be something catastrophic to really change people's hearts and get people to see things in a different kind of way, or to say, oh, wow, this really is a problem. And so I guess that is kind of the first question that I would pose to you all. Also, Jarvis is here in studio with us. Shout out to Jarvis.
Hi, Jarvis.
Shout out to Jarvis. Hey, Jarvis.
Jarvis.
Hello.
Jarvis don't like to talk, but
Okay.
I always tell
But he's
Jarvis
here.
if he wants to chime in, he's welcome to. Danielle, Spirit, I'll ask you first. What do you think it is going to take for America, because Black America gets this, but America at large does not necessarily understand it? What is it going to take for America to start to see like, oh, this really is a thing?
Right. Well, I don't know if it's going to be one particular thing, because there was a Vox piece earlier that was saying, if you don't get Black Lives Matter after Terrence Crutcher, you're never going to get it. The thing about that is that even in the 1960s, polls show that people didn't get that either. People didn't get the civil rights movement. That was considered very radical. That was considered people trying to move too fast. Now we kind of retrospectively think of it as a peaceful time, but that was not a peaceful time in America at all. Peaceful protests were not, the norm. It was not how it normally is.
I was just listening to Chuck Todd on MSNBC saying, back in the 60s, we remember those photos of people with the fire hoses and being
And the
attacked and all
dogs.
that. And he was like, those are those iconic images that we can't, take out of our minds.
Right.
And these are the images of our time where
Right.
people's hands up, don't shoot, and, these lines of protesters. So, I mean, it's an interesting juxtaposition.
Okay, so can I interject something that's going to seem really controversial that we haven't talked about in terms of strategy yet? Because what we have been asking as people of color is for people to understand that Black Lives Matter. And what I will propose to you is that human nature does not allow most people to do that. Because if something does not connect with me, then I cannot relate to it. So what you're asking for people who are not necessarily people of color, and it's the same thing across communities. I mean, as an African-American woman, can I necessarily understand the plight of the Japanese American who was in concentration camps? Can I understand what a Muslim American is going through when we talk racial profiling as it relates to terrorism? Not necessarily. I can empathize. I can try to get there, but can I understand it? No, not in the same way that I can understand the struggle of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? So what I would suggest here is, instead of trying to get individuals to connect with something that they may not be able to, not because they don't want to, but it just doesn't register, then can we open this up into a broader conversation to explain to them how it relates to them and how it connects? So when we say, let's talk about the fact that Black men and women are being killed at rates that are 2.5 times higher than a person who's not of color, that won't register. But if I say there have been 768 people who have been killed by law enforcement officers in this country this year alone, then that means that you're in that number too. That means that people that look like you as well have been killed by law enforcement officers. So now we're all in the same boat. So now what we're asking for is reform of the law enforcement structure in this country. And I'm not asking for you to align with me because I have a struggle that's not yours. So it's, how do we realize that we're all in the same boat, either rowing or drowning together? And then how do we broach this conversation? That hasn't happened yet.
So what will it take to have that happen?
What that will take is, instead of putting faces that look like mine on the camera, begging and pleading and crying, saying, please understand that my life matters, put somebody that looks like mainstream America out there again and again and again.
Last night watching the protests, it was interesting. There was a short moment where there's like a white woman and she's in the middle of the street and she's on her knees with her hands up, and a Black man comes over and he like
I
says
saw that Big
something-
Brother man with the black on.
He
Yeah.
comes over and he taps her on the shoulder and he like says something in her ear, and like she stands up and hugs
High
him.
fives, some hugs.
Yeah, they have like a moment, and like she goes back down on the ground, and like a few other people come over, and it's one of those moments where you can watch something happen, but you have no idea what the
Right.
conversation is, and you're
Right.
kind of making it up in your mind. But I do think it is one of those moments where it's like we have to see more than Black faces saying these things, and I think about Megan Rapinoe when we talk about Colin Kaepernick, the soccer player, when she took the knee during the national anthem
Right.
and said, it's the least I could do. Keep the conversation going.
Right.
I think it's one of those things where we have to see it reach past us,
Hello.
right? It has to be more than just us.
She also said some really great things about intersectionality as well, because she's a lesbian. And so one of the things that she said was, I understand what it's like to not have the flag represent you. And, before gay marriage was legal, that was a point that she was trying to make. So if this group of people is oppressed, then, I can be too. And so I should stand up for Colin Kaepernick. And then also, we also know that Native Americans are actually the most disproportionately shot and killed by police. So there are other groups who are also affected by this. And so I think what Spirit said about there being, a more overarching approach could be a tactic.
Yeah. But let's not confuse that with the need to then say, because I hear some of your audience out there, I hear you going, well, then shouldn't we then go back to hashtag all lives matter then, if that's the point that you're making? And the answer is no, because if this house is on fire, we don't need to be putting water on the roof next door as prevention. We need to be trying to put this fire out, and then we worry about that. So we have to have a strategy where we say, how do we tackle this? How do we resolve this? But we do it in one voice and one motion all together. That's how this works.
The other piece of this that became interesting to me is like this was all in the same week as we'd seen a terrorist in New York set off bombs, and we saw that
and still gets to talk about it.
And we saw that person, detained. We saw them found, de-escalated, arrested, put into a vehicle, and taken away. Whereas this man is standing on the side of the road
waiting for his child,
looking for help, or waiting for their child, or looking for help, or whatever it is, and like, oh no, whatever this is. And like in the helicopter video, which we can address that, like, first of all, why is there a helicopter that is being sent to a man with a broken down car? But like they talk about, oh, he looked like he was reaching in the vehicle for his weapon, and it's like,
in the closed window.
The window was open because we can see his blood that was splattered on the window in the helicopter video. And so that is one of the things that frustrates me. And I tried to not like jump on Twitter immediately and be like, why were they able to take the terrorists? But like I was glad but like that was like the first thing that I said. Yeah. And like I saw someone else tweet it, and so I retweeted it and was like, I went a whole day without saying this, but I mean it's frustrating to be like, how is it that Dylan Storm Roof was able to be de-escalated in South Carolina? How is it
and
that
ride a private plane and eat Burger King
on his way home to the state?
But you have Philando Castile's wife or fiance who was detained, getting no food, no water, and she's the victim.
With a 4-year-old child in the backseat.
But no food, no water, detained in a law enforcement facility, but gets no respect.
Yeah. And I mean, which then makes me think of Sandra Bland. Okay, so you saw this today, and I didn't see this. The Pettinger statement. Talk to us about who he is and what he said.
So Robert Pettinger is a representative for North Carolina. So he went on to a BBC show.
I just want to put in context that the fact that he's in North Carolina puts this all in context for the fact that this happened in North Carolina.
Right.
And he's the representative that seemingly represents the person who's now dead.
Exactly.
And also one of the people that is now arrested. But go ahead.
Interesting.
Right. So in the aftermath of the violence that happened in Charlotte, they were asking him, so why are people so angry? And he basically said that, I'm going to try to say this with a straight face, that black people are angry because they're jealous of the success of white people.
Girl, no, he didn't. I'm going to need you to quote it verbatim because I cannot. I
have to pull up on my phone. And then he went on to say that the reason that is the case is that they have become dependent on the welfare system of this country. Ooh. He also said that one of the beacons of America is for people to be able to come here with the freedom and opportunity of America. No, you didn't. Freedom and opportunity of America, to pursue businesses, entrepreneurship, things like that. I'm paraphrasing. But he did use the word freedom, which is really interesting considering more than 12 million people came here in slavery, not out of freedom.
Well, that's what we talked about in the green room, like the idea of people like coming here, like black folks came over as immigrants looking for a new day.
Oh, that unpaid internship, you mean? Where we learned how to build a nation?
Right.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Where we learned how to build a nation.
Including the White House.
I would say, right.
A banking system. Don't even get me started.
Go ahead on Danielle.
No, I mean, no.
Breastfed. Don't even get me started. Woo, Lord.
Took it to breastfeed.
Right?
Hello, you know that we did, though.
Yeah, no, it's true.
There was nothing that we didn't do here.
It's true. Yeah, so it's basically the statement was just a complete loss of the black history of this country. no mention of slavery, no mention of any of that. And then he did issue a Twitter apology afterwards that I don't quite understand.
That his PR people respectfully crafted in
To
order
walk
to
back a statement.
squelch
Right.
some of this
Right.
protest.
But it was a very bizarre thing to listen to. I encourage you to listen to it. If you
This,
have the
this
opportunity.
makes me think about Steve King at the RNC talking about how, European nations were the only countries that really made any major contributions to this world. And I mean, what other contributions have come from other nations?
Well,
And
but
it's
see,
just
you
like,
know what? I blame the public school system for that, because that is what
You know what? That's
institutionalized
absolutely-
racism has been in
That's
this
true.
country. So, there is this argument, but part of the argument really is the asking or the begging, because if I have never been taught this, how can I understand that? So I can only go by what I know, and what I know has got to be fact, because that is what my whole life depends on. So there is this, we have to approach this with some empathy and some understanding, with the frustration on the back end. We have to show how to model this by saying, yes, I'm angry, yes, I'm frustrated, but there is a part of me that understands that you don't know, and the only way to invite you into this space to learn it is if I meet you there with open arms.
I think I'm comfortable with that in the sense of it being a regular average person. But the idea to me, and I think we talked about this earlier too, that someone who is an elected official,
Child, we are all regular average people. Come on now.
Someone who has had probably
So-
more opportunity than most in
To
the
be
education
uneducated?
system, still believes the things that they believe.
So
It's
I'm
amazing.
sitting kind of in the middle of the two of you.
And educates the nation or his
Because-
whole
Right.
state, right?
Well, whenever we talk about the public school system and like the lack of education about Black people and like African culture, I always think about I think it was in 11th grade, and we're in world history, and we discussed the countries of Africa very quickly. And
Oh, you mean that one page?
right, exactly. But then we
Okay.
discussed Egypt, and I was always fascinated by the way that Egypt. When
Is
it's
the Middle
depicted-
East?
When it's exactly when it's depicted in a map, it's always a part of the Middle East.
Right.
It's like this top corner of this other weird continent that's down there.
Hello.
And then like we talk about it as a Middle Eastern culture, and
Right.
like we include it in that and don't talk about it as a part of Africa. And so when you mention the public school system, I think
Right.
about that immediately in the way that we try to and then when we look at America, we downplay slavery. Oh
Hello.
yeah, Black people. Had
But
a hard
it's
time,
human
it was fine.
nature, and this is the thing. It happens all over the world. I was privileged enough to actually go to Egypt several years ago for a show with the Hallmark Channel, and I had the opportunity to really talk to the people, and that was one of the questions that I had. I'm like, so listen, then I'm standing here in the birthplace of civilization on the continent of Africa, but we're talking about this as if it's the Middle East. How does that happen? And the individuals who were there not only proceeded to tell me about the raping of the civilization as Syria kind of took over, but also how the history of the people there became a laughing stock and was erased. And when I tell you that you go to the birthplace of civilization and people climb on the monuments and place gum on them like it's a desk that I'm sitting at because it's not cool to be a part of Egyptian culture or history, it is a systematic manipulation and brainwashing of individuals not to be able to understand their power. And that is the ultimate power in this country today.
Which is how a representative Steve King can then come along and say,
Hello.
I mean,
Can we push Steve King out the way though and give shout outs? Because you want to talk about somebody actually doing it different.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Ohio police chief who actually spoke out and said this has got to stop. Who has now chastised after this whole Mr. Crutcher thing, who has stepped forward and said it was done the wrong way. This has got to stop because that's what it's going to take here. It is going to take us all because, see, we can get frustrated and we can talk about how we're all different and we're all frustrated and we're all exhausted. But in the same conversation, at the end of this, we have to figure out how do we get to the coming together.
I hear you. And I
It's hard, though.
The-
People don't want to do that right now.
part of that is one of the things I wanted to discuss with you as well, because if today is Thursday, I guess Tuesday night when a lot of this was happening, and I'm tweeting and having this discussion online with people, like eventually it like broke me down to where I had like a good old nasty cry.
You got
Jarvis,
to.
don't judge.
Not the Oprah cry, right?
I mean the big
The
old
ugly,
nasty, like
ooh,
right,
right.
I mean
Okay.
what I call the snot and shoulders, where it's like
In your room crying, right?
Like,
where it's the dry heat.
Exactly,
Ooh,
exactly.
Ooh, no tears
right,
left.
right.
Okay, hallelujah.
And so I had my snot and shoulders moment, but it was like, what are we supposed to do? Like, where are we supposed to go from here? But I started to then think about mental health and like the way that this becomes like traumatic to like continue to experience it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And we've talked to friends about how like you kind of go numb to it after a certain while. You
Well, you become
desensitized
desensitized to it. Yeah, because a constant exposure to trauma, eventually for your body to save itself, the natural, normal reaction is to shut down, because it is, I cannot continue to function under this stress and strain and survive. So how I do that is I go into protection mode. I become completely desensitized and I check out. That is the normal response. And so we can't get to the kumbaya that I talk about because we haven't ended the trauma. We're still in the middle of trauma, and most people don't even see it as that. So you're walking around having this exposure that when it's all said and done, you will have to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, but you haven't got to the post yet. We are still in this country in the throes of the trauma and being re-traumatized and re-victimized over and over and over.
And I think one thing too, and Sean King, I think, was the person to say this.
Shout out
is
Sean
that,
King. Thank you.
It's true. In that, you know, we're sort of looking at this as, this is so obvious. Why can't we get this? Why can't we get this? So, I mean, the civil rights movement took, you know, almost 10 years. So, and that was just one piece of a very, very long 400-year struggle. So right now we're at a period of heightened struggle. We're at a period of a lot of protests, a lot of riots. You know, it could be several more years before we really see the change that we're going to get, but it doesn't mean that it's not going anywhere. It's just not going to be, probably not going to be one event that changes everything.
Well, I mean, because some people would say like, this current moment that we're in was kind of catalyzed around Trayvon Martin, and some would say Mike Brown. Yeah. Some people would say Trayvon Martin, some say Mike Brown. And it's mind-blowing to me how long ago that was now. Like,
It's scary.
Mike Brown still feels like it just happened. It's
Trayvon
like,
Martin still feels like yesterday.
Exactly. And like,
Yeah.
I remember being at home and my parent, like at home in the Bay Area, watching that happen on television, and like having another snot and shoulders cry moment, like where that the verdict comes down and like George Zimmerman is just standing there and it's like, oh, this is cool.
Still.
Right. But see, and then not to understand, because, you know, I think it's important to make sure that we keep pulling in all of your audience for folks not to understand, well, why are they so mad about Zimmerman? Why are they so mad that he is constantly in the media now, that he has this celebrity now? Why is it a problem that he walks around boasting about selling the same gun that he used to kill? See, we don't make the connections of how this could hurt somebody, but if this was your child and this was an individual who was walking around free in this very boisterous, very big way, how would that affect you? Or Michael Brown, we go, you know what? Nope, because that hands up, don't shoot narrative, that was fake. It's already been established by the DOJ that never happened. No. But you don't understand that people of color are not talking about him and that moment. They're talking about the hands up, don't shoot movement that came out of that, where you had Congress on the floor standing up in front of the White House, hands up, don't shoot. What it represented to a people, instead of looking at what it is and saying, nope, I flat out deny that because that never happened. We have to be able to contextualize what's happening in this country in order to be able to make moves around it.
Yeah, there's two things happening in my mind right now. So we talk about the way that this begins to resonate with black people versus white people and all that. And we are coming off of a week ago, Donald Trump coming out and deciding that, Barack Obama was born in this country.
Oh, because what did he say? I had to do that so we can go ahead and move this campaign forward. That's
right,
the new thing.
Exactly.
Can we just get over it already?
And so, like, there's been a lot of discussion around, like, what did this mean to Black America? Not that he's finally said it, but, like, what did the messaging of Barack Obama's not born in this country?
Right.
Well, but saying, like, he's not born here, he's an outsider, like, what did that say to Black people? And that was, like, I hadn't even, like, evaluated it as much as I'd heard some of the discussion. But, I mean, in the moment where we've just gone through that, and then we see these Black people killed, and we continue to like have all of these traumatic things happening in Black America, I'm curious, what are the ways that you would say that people can practice self-care
Okay, so you know what? So that's interesting to me because I didn't even think about it from that perspective of him finally saying it. What I thought about it was in perspective of the whole birther movement, right? And how it is translated to me over the last several years was show me your papers because it's always been about proving it. So it was show me your papers, show me your papers. And I'm walking around thinking, so what is this, like the Emancipation Proclamation? Like, are we in that place and time? But then because history will repeat itself if we're not careful. That's what we have learned about history, right? So now then we come up to our Hispanic brothers and sisters and we're talking about building a wall. And so for immigration purposes, are they now going to have papers? Are we now getting to the point where that's where the nation is coming? So you talk about self-care though, okay? Because I'm going to bring this all the way back around. You talk about self-care. One of the things that we have to do in order to take care of ourselves is to be willing to check out. You got to check into the collective, but you got to check out in order to be able to take care of yourself. And so we are in an age where we are inundated constantly by information. We cannot hear ourselves think. We cannot hear ourselves, our feelings. We don't even know where we are because we're just constantly being slapped with everybody else's opinions, what everybody else is thinking, what everybody else is feeling. And so how do we get to self-care? We have to say, I'm out for just 5 seconds. Let me grieve. Let me check in with me. How am I doing today? I can't ask you how you're doing today because I got to figure out how I'm doing today. I have to figure out what do I need in order to be okay. And we have become so plugged in that we're not willing to unplug so that we can get back into ourselves.
What does that look like practically applied?
That looks like what we have a hard time doing. Today, I'm not going to go on social media. Today, I'm not going to watch the news. The world is not going to fall off its axis, believe me, if you don't know what happened on the 5 o'clock news today. And if it's really that serious, trust me, you will hear about it because it's happening all around you constantly. So what it means is sometimes I have to go on a me diet. A me diet. I'm cutting off all of the social media. I'm cutting off all of the technology. I am going to do something that pleases me, that connects me into what makes me feel human. Whether that's spending time with my loved ones, whether that's me going to a spa and getting a mani-pedi, whether that's me going to find a tree that speaks to me with a book that I've been meaning to read for the last 10 years, whether that's me going for a walk just so I can hear birds chirping and realize that a flower is actually growing on my corner lawn and I never saw that thing before and how long has it been there? Yeah. All of the things that I said that I needed to do that I keep putting on the back burner, one day needs to finally be today. And that's how you start to take care of yourself. And then when you finally do plug back in, you're so much more meaningful because you are in a space to be able to contribute to the dialogue and to the forward movement.
All right.
I'm going to need you to say more than, well, all right.
I'm going to step out and have some me time. We'll be right back.
You better get you some. Get your life,
No,
baby.
I just think it's so important because we don't talk about mental health enough, like in any situations,
Truly.
right? Like we always think about ourselves and our mental health later. But like when I was sitting there after I like cried and like kind of came back and wiped my face, I was thinking to myself, what are the ways that like we're supposed to handle these things, or how are we supposed to deal with these things? Because it does have such a weight. And it feels like a punch in the stomach every single time. Like you see this story and you see a hashtag of a name and you think, oh God, not another one.
How many more hashtags?
Yeah. Right.
Danielle.
Yes.
You saw my tweets this week.
I did.
There's this Drake song.
Look at his face. He said, "You saw, girl. You
Well,
saw."
I need someone to back me on this because I feel like it's a little bit corny.
I'm gonna sit here quietly for a second because you know
here's
this
the
is the
thing.
millennial thing.
So,
right?
but there's this Drake song. It's called "Too Good."
Right.
And I tweeted about this, and you were like, "Were you tweeting about Drake or something this week?"
Okay, it wasn't that accusatory. I had questions. Once you explained it to me, I understood what was happening.
So yes, okay.
I love the connection. Though.
So the same night that this happened, I saw the Drake. I let me give you a little bit more context. So I was Tuesday night. I was getting home, and I felt like, oh, I need to go to Target. It's like 11 o'clock. It's like, oh crap, let me run to Target really quickly. But just as that was happening, I thought, oh, should I go outside and go to Target this late? And then I was like, wait a minute. Like,
how late was it? Put this.
It was
in
11
context
o'clock.
for us.
It was 11 o'clock, and it was the same day we had already started talking about police shootings. And I don't know if the Keith I think Keith the Keith Lamont Scott story where the man sitting in the car with his book had been shot. And like it made me pause before I went out the door and I was like, oh, is it a good idea to be going out, walking down the street and blah, 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 like this late at night? And then I was like, and then that pissed me off.
Right.
It's like, am I nervous to go to Target at 11 o'clock at night because I'm a black man, like out on the street in America? Like then that kind of enraged me.
Right.
And so
because you've lost your freedom. You've lost what this country was founded on.
And we talk about the national anthem and we sing, the home of the brave, the land of the free and the home of the brave. But I'm scared to walk out of my front door.
Because you didn't read the third stanza. That's why.
Well, right. Which we've had that discussion on the show. So I sent all these tweets talking about like what it's like to have this feeling in this moment. And this is why we're upset about the national anthem. This is why I don't feel free. This is why we say Black Lives Matter, because I don't feel like my life matters enough for me to be able to walk out of my house and go to Target because it's late and and it could be broad daylight because both of these situations this week happened in the middle of the day.
And then you have to start second guessing yourself because there's the part of you that goes, wait a minute, am I crazy for feeling this way? But then the reality tells you, well, what I'm experiencing tells me I'm totally justified in having that. I had a similar experience just coming to Atlanta. I was afraid to leave my husband to drive my car with me not being in the city because I was thinking my husband is a big, beautiful.
Come back.
Okay, rein it back.
Come back.
Woo. Okay, love you, baby. He is a big, beautiful chocolate man. Okay, but on any given day, he is the epitome of the stereotypical angry black man that what a lot of people would fear.
He's dark brown. He's got a bald head and a beard.
Hallelujah.
Okay.
Love you, baby. Coming home soon. Okay. Whoa.
I wish you could.
Woo, that's a whole nother. I'm glad none of the cameras are on me. Okay. None of the cameras. Hallelujah. So, but the point is the idea of leaving him to drive my car with me not being in the city, so that if they were to look at him and just decide, just arbitrarily, because this happens in America now every day, let me just run the tags, and that looks like a woman's name, and that's a man that's driving the car, and his driver's license doesn't match the address that the car is registered to because we just moved. And so I'm thinking all of these things, and he's like, babe, just go get on the plane. And I'm like, no, I cannot go get on the plane because I cannot fathom the idea of you being shot and killed, you being pulled over, God forbid you by yourself, but with our 6 children in the car, and to have to get on a plane and think, is this the last time I could see my husband? Might he lose his life in front of our children while I'm gone?
The land of the free and the home of the brave.
Who's really the brave?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So I sent out all these tweets and I was scared to go outside, and then I was mad at myself for being scared, and then I had the am I crazy moment.
There we go.
So then I sent out all these tweets, and then I finally made the decision in the last tweet, and that storm was, I'm going to Target, damn it. And it was like, I'm
going to Target.
Right. And I was
Target,
like,
come on.
Exactly.
I'm going to give you my money.
I'm going to buy more than I came for, just like I'm supposed to at fucking Target.
Did you check if you
buy
had your
blackout
license?
that you just gave them all your money?
Did I what?
Did you check if you had your license and your papers?
Absolutely.
Did he have his paper? We're not Donald Trump yet. Don't
Right.
do it.
So as I'm getting ready to leave the house, I turn on, I put in my headphones, and Drake and Rihanna's Too Good comes on. And I'm gonna play it while we talk about this, but like
you're gonna have to translate for us older
individuals. I'm gonna give you the lyrics. I'm gonna break it down for you. But the song, as I heard it this time, just felt different to me.
Okay.
Because it felt like, this is it.
Hello?
Yeah, this could be Black people's message to America. And I'll go through the lyrics with you to kind of explain what I mean by this.
Okay, let me hear it and then translate it.
Here you go.
This
is Drake and Rihanna Too Good.
Okay, come on.
I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to ask you if you're okay.
Let me stop you right there.
What? I just got my hands up.
One, because I don't want us to get in trouble for using too much of this song.
Oh,
but
okay, right.
He says, I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to ask you if you're okay. And I think about the way that Black people have been trying to communicate with America. I would say in the last few years, but but really mean for like decades and like
centuries.
And I think about like the Sean King piece about what form of protest are you okay with? And it's like if we're trying to communicate through a march, that's too aggressive. If we stop walking and we stand, that's too aggressive. If we sit down, that's too aggressive. If we kneel, if we wear a bracelet, if we wear whatever it is.
If you put it on a shirt.
Exactly.
If you silently sit.
And so the message is, I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to ask you if you're okay. Right? So The lyrics go on.
My friends always feel the need to tell me things. Seems like they're just happier than us these days. Yeah.
I mean, that one, my friends are always trying to tell me things. It seems like they're just happier than us these days. My white friends are trying to tell me what's right and what's not, and you know, different people from different cultures.
Right, get over it already.
Exactly, and it seems like they're just happier than us.
Why
these
are
days.
you so angry?
Calm down. We'll go on.
Yeah. These days I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to be there when you need me. It feels like the only time you'll see me is when you turn your head to the side and look at me differently.
Now I heard that. That didn't even need an explanation.
It seems like
there.
the only time that you see me is when you turn your head and look at me differently. I mean,
because you're not me.
Right.
I don't get you.
You look at me like I'm a different kind of person.
Right. I don't.
There's
Are you a person?
You've othered me, right? I'm either aggressive or I'm hateful or
You're a big mean dude.
Or if you see me sitting in my car with a book, you're in fear for your life.
Yes.
Right.
How does that work?
Because you got out.
Well, right. Okay. Well,
But I asked you to. I forgot.
Right. Right. We demanded actually at gunpoint. Here we go.
Yeah. And last night, I think I lost my patience. Last night, I got high as the expectations. Last night.
Let me stop you there. Last night, I got high as the expectations.
So I acted exactly how you expected me to.
Well, even before that, he says, "I think I lost my patience."
Yeah, I
and
snapped.
this is minutes after I just had like a breakdown, right? Where it's like,
now I'm angry.
I don't know what else to say or do. I'm out of patience on this.
Right.
And like, I don't know what else we're supposed to do. I don't know what we're supposed to say, what else we're supposed to give, what else we're supposed to be, how else we're supposed to act, what else we're supposed to say,
I'm out
how
of
else we're supposed to
options.
dress.
Right. I don't know anything else to do. I've done everything I know how to do. I have
Exactly.
exhausted my coping skills.
And what's the lyric after that?
I lost my patience last night.
Oh, I got high as the expectation. It's like, this took me all the way up to the top, right? And now I'm debating whether or not I want to become what you say I am, this angry, black,
Because I am that now.
aggressive,
Now I am
hateful.
angry. I'm
now
pissed
you've
off.
Pushed me to that level
Right.
where I'm furious, but also part of that fury comes from fear. Like I'm scared to go walk outside in the damn street because I just saw a man.
Right.
You know
but
what
let's
I mean?
but let's take it even a step further, because what we know as mental health clinicians is just below anger is, or just below fear is anger, and just below anger is hurt. So when I really am lashing out, I'm lashing out because I am hurt. I am devastated. I am broken. And this is how I am choosing to express it. Because see, you cannot be angered by what you don't care about, what you love, and what does not love you. So it is now I'm responding to being rejected. It is really, really, really powerful.
I mean, the idea of it coming from hurt then takes me back to sitting there crying.
And there it goes.
Yeah.
And then you're hurt because really you love it. And the real question is, why don't you love me when I love you?
Okay, girl. I need you to,
Do we need some
I need
tissue?
you to ease on down the road.
Hey,
No, you ain't
we
gonna get me
gotta-
to cry on this damn show today.
You're not gonna make me cry.
Here we go.
We all need to cry.
Back to the song.
And I hope you can take it.
I hope you can take it. I'm too good to you. I'm way too good to you.
You take my love for granted. I just don't understand it.
You take my love for granted,
Yes.
and I just don't understand it.
Right.
Go
This
ahead.
is where I really understood what you were saying. I think it's two things. When you were talking about, what else do I have to do? So how do I have to dress? How do I have to act? Basically respectability politics, right?
Exactly that.
So Black people have been taught for a very long time that that's how you survive racism, is respectability politics. You're good enough, you assimilate, you act appropriately. I think what has really reignited the debate again since this summer is that Terrence Crutcher was doing the things, as far as we know so far, that fall into respectability politics. So we always have these conversations about, does the person have a criminal past? Did they have a gun in the car or on them? None of those things mean that you should be shot and killed. However, this person, we have yet to see any sort of quote unquote smoking gun of, why he was shot. And I think that is really where people are just appalled because what am I supposed to do at this point? This week really brings that up.
I have had this conversation with my parents about respectability politics and why I just can't give
Most
you that
people
anymore.
don't even know what that is, though. They go,
Well,
"What
right.
is this newfound fandangled thing that you
Exactly.
all talk
Fandangled.
about?
Fandangled. I
This
think you mean
newfandangled.
fangled. You mean newfangled.
Is that what you millennials call
I
that?
can't stand it. But no, like I had this conversation with my parents because my brothers are taller than me. I'm 6'3". My brothers are both 6'4", black kids with tattoos and all this, and it's like
So is my brother.
and it makes me afraid the same way that you're afraid of your husband walking down the street. And like one of those could be BJ. One of those could be Dylan. One of those could be cute. Like one of those could be me.
Yeah.
One of those could be my dad.
Hello. Well,
one of those could be my mom.
Yeah.
Going to
Anybody.
church. Exactly.
Anybody.
Going forward in the lyrics, just we won't play all of the song, but it says Rihanna goes on to say, "I don't know how to talk to you. I just know I find myself getting lost with you. Lately, you just make me work too hard for you." And it's like we think about respectability and how hard some
We've
people
tried
go.
to assimilate in order to
Right.
just
Exactly to
Yes.
just be accepted, right? Not to
Yes.
excel, but to just be
No,
like
to just-
present in the space.
Yeah.
Half is good.
She goes on to say, "You got me on flights overseas, and I still can't get across to you." It's like we have hashtags, we've got podcasts and songs, and we've written beautiful articles and done artwork and all of and like I don't know how to get across to you.
Right.
So like the song goes on and Drake says, "Years go by too fast, I can't keep track." And that made me think about the way that can you remember the last 10 hashtags that we had? I can't even keep up with them. And then if you can remember their names, you can't remember, wait, so Terrence Kircher was in Tulsa, Sandra Bland, oh shoot, where was she? And
It
then
becomes a blur.
Mike Brown, okay, well that was for, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I can't even keep track with how many times we've had this discussion.
Or somebody
How
says
many-
a name and you go, "Oh, I forgot them."
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot that one.
Oh shoot, Eric Garner didn't think about how could I forget that? And then you feel a little bit of guilt, like, and then but then the thing that really bothers me about it is like that's a family.
Thank you.
That family hasn't
Thank
forgotten that
you.
their
Come
that
on,
their dad
Jarrett.
is gone.
That's somebody's husband. That's somebody's child.
Somebody's daddy
That's-
is gone.
Hello.
Yeah.
They ain't forgot about that
Hello.
hashtag. You know what I mean?
Did you hear the young lady who was Facebooking yesterday? I guess she just had the phone in her hand as she's going. They just shot my daddy. He had 7 children.
That was North
it
Carolina.
was gut wrenching to watch Philando Castile's fiance sit in that car and go, "I'm on the corner of such and such. Somebody please come." And for her 4-year-old to go, "It's okay, mommy."
Can I tell you that is what?
Gosh.
So I watched that whole video and like
Why did you do that?
I
You couldn't stop watching.
well like having to like report and talk about these things. I feel like there are certain things that I will watch and then like certain things I just won't even engage. And that was one of the things that I watched. And like there are a couple of moments in that video that just devastated me. And I'm realizing we haven't talked about it because the podcast was away, but like listening to her outside when they like threw her phone off to the side and you hear her praying to God, like this plea, like, please don't let him be dead. Please don't let him be dead. Please
because
don't let
it
him
finally
be dead.
starts to hit. It's surreal. You're in denial. You cannot process what
Exactly.
doesn't seem like reality.
Hearing her like pleading to God that he's not dead.
Please
Bru-
don't tell me he's dead. Please don't.
Exactly. And then for her to get back in the car and her daughter to be there, 4 years old, and it's okay, mommy, I'm right here with you. And like
Right.
that 4-year-old is like, I don't even know like the scientific side of that, but like the fact that like that 4-year-old child is able to then process like my mom needs nurturing right now.
Right.
For
And-
like 5 seconds and then will be broken for the rest of her life.
Exactly, because he's gone. She witnessed that. And like, and not only like did she witness it, but like it's become immortalized because of how big it was, right?
Right.
And it's something that we've all like
Right.
taken a piece of. And
So she will have mental health issues for life, and then she will interface with individuals and be in relationship with folks as a broken individual who will probably never get help, who will then have children of her own, who will then be a grandmother. We are talking about generational devastation that happens over and over and over. And then not just her, but we're exposed to it as well by watching it and living and learning it vicariously.
Right.
It is just a systematic loss of millions and millions and millions of contributing people in this nation and across the world. It's so big. I mean, it's so big. It's so big.
The tweet storm that I did that night ends by saying like, then we say, hey, we matter. Treat us like human beings, like worthy lives, and then you turn and tell us to be grateful for what we've got. Right. I hear Bill O'Reilly saying, like, those slaves were treated well that built the White House. Oh, gosh. They were fed well and kept in good lodging.
Hello.
Like, what do you what do you want? I almost said something else. And it says, America, maybe we're too good to you. Way too good to you. You take our love for granted. I just don't understand it. Like, and I guess to me, like, it's like, what else are you supposed to do? What else are you supposed to say? Like, and now I can't hear this song without thinking about America in this context. And I can't think about the national anthem the way that I did before, a few weeks ago when Colin Kaepernick started taking a knee. And like, I feel like all of these things are, I mean, I'm not 18, so these aren't my formative years, but like they definitely are shaping the way that I look at America and the
every
way I
year
look
is your formative year.
You know what I mean? Like, and so it's just, it's been a hard week.
And I think it is, we're talking about the stress, and it is damaging to look at a lot of those things over and over again. One thing that I would say is, so my father is white and my mother is black, and they are in their late 60s. So when they were coming up in the civil rights movement, and even in the busing riots in Boston, my dad has said, this is the first time that I've seen recently, since the civil rights movement, people being this passionate, and a lot of that is because of social media and because of video. So he was saying, things like this always used to happen.
There we go.
It was very easy to sweep it under the rug. It was very easy to
we didn't have a camera phone.
Lie in a police report, to say that there was a gun there, to say that there were all these things. And even though it is really hard to watch these things, this is one of the first times in American history where you can say, no, that's not what happened. And that's really important. It's hard, and it's very emotional to hear, that child, Philando Castile's girlfriend's child, say things like that. But this is sort of a new era where we're able to stand up and say, this is what actually happened, and here's this video.
Well, and like, there's a video of a woman from, I guess it's Keith Lamont Scott in North Carolina, where she's saying like, oh no, they keep saying that it was a black police officer. It wasn't a black police officer. It was a white police officer. And these are reporters that are interviewing her. And she says, and they're like, well, were you there? Did you witness it? And she's like, oh, yeah. No, I was standing right there. She was like, he was in the thing. He was in the truck. He was in a truck. So it wasn't a car. And she like describes like the way he got out of the vehicle.
With the level of detail that is.
Right. To be more specific. Like, it wasn't like he had to get a car. He was in a car and he had to get up, but he was in a truck and he was getting down. He had the book, and then he put it in his lap, and he got out, and the book falls out of his lap, and it was a black book. I don't remember if it was what the name of the book was, but I remember it was a book, and I remember him stepping over the book, and he has his hands up. And like, that account is what we would probably be used to. But like, then it's like, okay, but in 2016 we have video of this, and we have tweets about it, and we've got like all of these different things where people are able to record and have a record of these things happening. And so
see, that's just tough for me, because as a mental health clinician with eyewitness account and what we know about how people remember stories and the retelling of stories, I know that every time that she tells the story, it becomes less and it becomes actually less credible. But I think that it says something specific, that what we have is technology. And what even more tangible than that to me is just think about the protest last night. I don't know if you guys saw the number of individuals on Facebook who were at the protest who talked about the young man who was shot, and then the police came out and said, well, listen, it wasn't a police officer that shot him, it was a civilian. And there were dozens of accounts of individuals tweeting and Facebooking going, no, it was a police officer. I was there, and they hit him in the head with either like a rubber bullet or tear gas canister, but I was there and I saw it. And you have all these individuals from all over the place who are not connected, who didn't see each other necessarily that night, but all saw the same thing.
Well, and like, the other new element of this is also like the instantaneous response.
Yes.
Like, oh no, I'm tweeting about this
right now.
And if anyone understands the instantaneous response to a tweet, it is I. Like, I get it. But
how might that be? I don't know.
Well, that's a whole other show.
Okay, yeah.
But like, I mean, but like the instantaneous, like being able to respond to what you're seeing before you, and that getting retweeted and shared, and all of these people are then coding it, and then like how that grows. It's like, oh no, I just saw this, or here's a video of what I'm looking at right now. That is just
A
like
streaming video.
The white.
Exactly.
Did you
I'm
see
live
this
on
last
this thing
night?
right
The,
now.
the white woman who showed the video of the white man who rolls up in the car in the middle of the protesters, pulls out a gun and has it sitting right there, dangling outside of his window, and everybody is going, "He's got a gun! He's got a gun!" And
He
there's a
made it out
police
alive.
officer standing in front of him, doesn't question him, doesn't anything. He waves the gun back and forth, and then drives off. No questioning, no condemnation, no death.
Right. Well, there's a different set of rules about open carry.
Well,
in this country.
depending on who you
Depending
are.
on
Right.
who you, I know, because I haven't heard the NRA support anybody in an open carry state that looks like a person of color yet.
Let's take a quick break because Danielle has this fantastic piece that I want to talk about before we go. We're almost out of time, so we'll take a quick break.
Yes.
We'll be right back after this.
Hey, I'm Del Shores.
And I'm Emerson Collins, and we host
the Del and Emerson Show. Straight talk.
Real Gay,
With segments including Catching Up with Crazy,
flashing through the gay news,
Quality Updates,
and what's gay in sports ball,
we discuss all that's serious.
and definitely not so serious,
in gay pop culture, entertainment, and politics, and we have so many opinions.
on so many things.
and very little censor.
What's a censor?
Catch the commentary, hilarity, and unfiltered nonsense all on the Del and Emerson Show.
Live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, only on UBN Radio.
Straight talk.
Real Gay.
Hey lovers, are you ready for the new season of Dates and Mates with me, Damona Hoffman? We have all the top experts in dating and relationships, plus celebrity guests who will share juicy details about their own love lives and their opinions on your dating dilemmas. Join us every Wednesday at our brand new time, 11 a.m. Pacific, to discuss love in the modern world on Dates and Mates here on UBN Radio.
All right, we're back. So initially what we had planned on discussing tonight was an article by this fantastic young lady named Danielle DeCourcy over at Attention. Attention, if you are not familiar with Attention, it's attn.com. You've probably seen their videos on Facebook. There's so many really great videos about social justice and things that are happening in the world right now.
Thank you for your work.
That Attention is
Seriously.
doing. Yeah. She did this article called "This Photo is Raising a Debate About Toxic Masculinity." It's a photo that you may have seen on social media. It's of this 18-year-old boy and his father, and they're like on the floor or something, and they're lying down, and the 18-year-old son is lying on his dad. And then there's a foursquare of more photos of them doing this over the years. It's like one of them, the boy has a bottle. He's a little baby, and like, and so over the course of the years, like they've taken this photo again and again, but it sparked a lot of controversy. And I want you to kind of explain what that controversy was.
Right. So it's the photo is really 4 photos that are side by side. And a man named Eric Owens, that's his Facebook name, posted this side by side on his Facebook page. And it's just a picture of him and his son throughout the years hanging out, and they're physically touching. One's laying on the other. The son's laying on the father. And for some reason that I wasn't expecting, a lot of people were very angry and upset about this photo. So because the adult version of the pictures have the son lying on the father, they felt that that was inappropriate, unnatural, something that only women should be doing. Just a lot of backlash against this closeness. And that was sort of surprising to me, honestly.
Was it?
Yes and no. I mean, I think sometimes I forget that the people that I know are not representative of everyone.
Come on now,
but,
there you go.
But, you know, I think but basically a lot of the comments to me seemed very toxically masculine, where it's this idea that doing anything that seems feminine is somehow not a sign of a real man, or anything that's gentler, stereotypically softer emotions is unacceptable. And that was, you know, that was the main criticism of it, is that this is something for women, and men shouldn't be doing this, not a grown man anyway.
Well, and takes me all the way to the way that we talk to boys about man up, don't cry,
Right.
boys
Be
don't cry,
tough.
and all that, and like how toxic that masculinity is, and the way that then our boys grow up to be angry, and they show their emotions as anger. And I mean,
because that's socially appropriate.
right. And I mean, Spirit, I don't know if you know anything about this.
Not at all.
But like,
So far
but I
from
mean,
what you're
but
talking
but the
about.
way that we train men and boys to ignore their feelings and just show that as anger,
Yeah.
and fight or yell and scream and
Or hurt women.
hurt women and destroy property, and you know all of the ways that shows up. And it was just it was really disheartening to me. And like, I mean, it did surprise me, but it
There's
didn't
also an
at the
element
same
of
time.
homophobia in it as well.
I mean, a huge element of
Right.
homophobia
In the
because
comments.
being soft is being gay, and being gay is the worst possible thing that you could be. And talk to us about the way that
Yeah, well,
presents
it's
itself.
the conditioning, it's the hypermasculinity idea, and so what we have to understand is that it is scripting, and it is really something that happens based upon where you live. Because if you go to other countries outside of America, that wouldn't be a problem. There are nations where same-gendered individuals, whether they're male or female, walk hand in hand, where it's not abnormal or unnatural to see them kiss each other. It is just what we have been taught, what a man does and what a woman does in this country, and we have decided that is what is socially acceptable or unacceptable for our time. So it's conditioning. That might not even have the same effect 20 years from now or with a different generation. But for our generation, and what social mores say is that is unacceptable for a man and a man to be laid up like that. And that means that he is somehow less than a man, being in the comfort and the love of his father.
One of the comments says, "This is the weirdest shit ever. Girl and her mother is one thing, but a man shouldn't be raising his son to lay on him like that. A father and daughter, I can see this, but this here is unacceptable."
Oh my gosh, I wish we had more men that would lay with their children. That would teach their men that it's okay to cry, to express hurt, that you have more of a range of emotion than just anger, power, and pushing and force.
And I mean, I guess we could say this all still then goes back to fear. And fear of being viewed a certain way, fear of being treated a certain way because you are then, quote, soft.
Well, because we don't accept ourselves. If you think that way about me, then that may make me have to check me. And so maybe I'm not the person that I thought that I was. This really goes back to a lack of self-acceptance.
Right.
So is that the fear and pain, the fear comes from hurt part?
Yeah, well, what if I really am not who I think I am? What if I am who everybody else says? Because somebody that's really comfortable and goes, oh, no, I get me. I don't care what you think it looks like. Child, because you think I'm gay. Well, hallelujah, do you? See, if we were really unbothered by the opinions of other people, but we are so busy walking around looking for someone to accept us and love us for who we are, not in spite of it, that we need every last person to tell us that we are okay. Otherwise, we're not. And that's the perpetual exhaustion, because you will never be okay in the eyes of everyone. It's just not possible.
Well, all right.
Are you going to stop doing that?
I think that about wraps it up. Thanks, folks. I appreciate you joining us this evening.
you. I cannot.
I mean, I don't even know. Like, I have to say much more about that. It's
That's a whole nother show, but it's so true.
It's scary to think that people see this and that is their immediate response to it.
It's sexual, and we're such in a sexually repressed society that we go right there. There's something to this. There's something beyond what I see in the photo. I'm interpreting a meaning beyond what I see. So
Which
let's
really
talk
goes,
about that.
which really goes back to the fear piece, because it's like, wait, what did you see there? Because that's your shit.
Right. Hello. Thank you.
Iyanla would say you need to do your work.
Your work.
Beloved.
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 Get you some leaves and put them around your neck.
I mean,
something.
it's just, yeah, that's
I
interesting.
think part of it too is I feel like people are very protective about their place in society. So if you're conscious that, as a straight male, or even if we're going to bring it back to race, a straight white male, anything that threatens the idea that you are superior might freak you out.
Or anything that threatens my place in society. I think that's a great point, because if you think a certain way about me, then does that put me at risk for losing my position and everything that I've worked for?
Right.
Now I'm on the outside looking in, and I've worked hard to get to where I am.
Yeah, I think that's even an appeal to Trump sometimes, because he tells people who are afraid of losing their place in society in a diverse world, I'm your champion. I'm going to make sure that your place, your status quo stays the same. And I think that ties into a lot of the things that are going on here.
And then he walks off the stage and goes, those idiots, they really bought it.
Right,
He doesn't
they bought
care
this
a
again.
thing about, let me not.
I got these fools one more time.
Because I'm
Did
great.
Trump say it one
He
more
goes, because of
time?
course. I
One
was
more
great,
time, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that was great, right? I was the best, right? I was best. I was better than last night, right? Yes. Okay.
Oh man. Okay. We are just about out of time. So before we go, I want you guys to both tell people where they can find you, Danielle. Tell people where they can find your work and your social media and all that stuff.
Sure. So you can find my work on attn.com, like Jarrett said. I am on Twitter it's easier if you just search for Danielle DeCourcy at DeeDeCourcey.
Oh, that's easier?
I know.
Spell it again
Well,
slow.
I told her, I was
we
like,
just had this conversation. It's awful because all the letters in my name sound the same.
I was saying like you have like such a good like show business name, but like you
I'm
were
like
saying,
D is in Delta,
Exactly.
E
Right.
is
Like
in Echo.
Delta, Echo.
I'm
Okay.
giving like
Please.
military directions.
Yes.
But the easiest thing is attn.com.
All right, and then Spirit, tell people where they can find you as well.
Oh, on all my social media. It's a little easier, but hers is definitely worth it. So go anyway. I'm Talk to Spirit on all the social media. It's Talk the number 2 Spirit. Or you can find me. You give me a call at the office if if it's a counseling session or you want to just elaborate. 888-718-2827. 888-718-2827.
So much easier. I'm jealous.
Look, I had to make it easy, girl, because I can't be doing all that. Half the time, it still is hard.
And I want to tell you guys I really appreciate both of you being here and having this conversation.
Thank you.
It wasn't. It's not the most fun discussion, but it's still an important one.
It's the
that
most
we need
necessary,
to be having.
though, right now.
Absolutely, and we didn't have time for situationships like we normally
So
would
then
have.
we come back. We do it again.
We'll have to have you both back to do those
Child,
things.
I don't know nothing about situationships. Nothing.
Well, it sounds like you've got a good situationship at home, the way you were talking about your husband.
Oh, we got to go. I got to get home, baby. I got a plane to catch.
As always, my name is Jarrett Hill. You can find me on social media everywhere at Jarrett Hill. That's JARRETT. No matter what Starbucks says, you can find me
that's right.
at Jarrett Hill on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And I thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time. Have a great day, a great night, a great time wherever you are taking this in. And as my mom always says, and I'll leave you with this: if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. We'll see you next time.
Woo, yes.